Hi guys, it's Carissa and this is my week 29 update. I have a lot of notes here, but really when it comes down to it, I'm only talking about two main topics, my glucose test and sort of how I was feeling. So I'm going to try not to talk for too long, but I have a lot to say about those two topics. Let me cover sort of the feelings and emotions first, because I already discussed some of that in my week 28 video and gave you guys a little bit of a preview for what was going on. I did mention that I was really stressed out. I had a lot going on in my personal life and I had a lot of appointments and obligations, and most of it wasn't anything negative. The only thing that I was really stressed about was having to take another glucose test. But when it comes down to it, my schedule was just too full, and I'm the kind of person who thrives on a lack of a schedule. I obviously like to know what I have coming up, and I like to be prepared and have things written down. I have a planner. You know, I do make sure that I actually have a physical planner, and I have one on my cell phone, a separate one, digital, so that I can have double reminders of things and never forget dates or times on things that I need. That makes me feel good, but it also makes me feel awful. I'm the kind of person who just doesn't like to have anything in the forecast. I don't know why. Even if it's stuff I'm looking forward to, it'll stress me out to some degree. A lot of that is anxiety based, and I understand that. Let's see, the only thing that I wrote down that I was physically experiencing was that I had a stabbing pain in my left nipple, sort of a nagging, stabby feeling. It did go away, and I find that since then, this has happened on both sides. It's maybe something that happens for a couple of hours, and it's not a consistent thing. It sort of will happen if it feels like a little, like, just like a nagging feeling, kind of achy, and it'll go away, and then maybe like 20 minutes later it'll come back for a little bit and then go away again. It's never anything that's really painful. If anything, it's just sort of noticeable and maybe a little bit annoying, but to me it's not that bad, because I know that it must mean that something's going on, and I like that. I appreciate that. But other than that, everything else that I was going through was hormonal. I'm almost positive. I think the combination of feeling stressed out and also something must have been happening with my hormones. It affected me because I was very emotional, and it's not that I'm not as emotional now. No, that's fair to say. I would say that I'm definitely not as emotional now. I mean, I couldn't even hear music. I'd be sitting in a waiting room somewhere and just basic soft rock music would be playing. Just some like love song from the 80s, and somehow it would make me feel like I needed to cry. And not like I wanted to because the song meant something to me or anything, just hearing music made me it was like I need to cry and just get it out. It's so weird because it was pretty constant. I was feeling a lot of emotions. And I still get teary and I still do feel emotional, but a lot of that's more connected to an actual feeling and actually feeling things like related to the pregnancy and really appreciating what I'm going through. Those are genuine tears that mean something to me. I think right around this time, I was having this issue where I just felt like I needed to cry. It was like I had so much built up or something. And again, none of it was bad stuff. Like, just for example, Mike's mother's birthday and my mother's birthday are 3 days apart. So there's always sort of an issue trying to coordinate schedules and who's available when, his family versus my family. Is he going to be able to come to my mom's thing? What are we going to get them for their birthdays? Because for some reason that subject doesn't ever come up at a decent. It's weird because we usually can plan really well ahead of time, like 3 or 4 months ahead of time, what we'll get them for Christmas, but for their birthdays, it's like, oh, but their birthday is our first. I don't know why we do that every year. And I had a 2-week appointment with my OB, and I had the glucose test, and I had a follow-up 6-month appointment at my primary care's office. And on top of all of those kinds of things, I had work, and I think one night I was watching one of my nieces, and I just had a really full plate. And I had to admit that I'm having some like preemptive financial stress because I don't get a paid leave. I work for myself. So when I stop working, I stop making any money, and that stresses me out. And Mike's job is also going through some sort of strange transitional thing where he received a promotion essentially, but he's making less money, and it's based on things that I guess I can't really discuss, but they're forecasting for things to get much, much better by January. But I just, part of me is like, I can't just believe that that's going to be true, because right now we're taking in less money than ever, and we're expecting a child. So it's kind of scary. Not than ever, that was dramatic. Then in like the last 2 years, our financial situation has gotten kind of strange. And I'm just trying to prepare myself for not having my income to support us, at least not for a little while. So I don't know, between that, trying to figure out what do we still need, what do we need to buy and what would just be a luxury, and what can we do now to prepare ourselves for then financially. And then we had an unexpected expense. Like one day I had just finished the bills, and then our hot water heater broke the next day, and we didn't have room for the bills that I paid, let alone to buy a new hot water tank. So a lot of that stuff contributed, I think. But I also believe that I was going through something a little bit, also like some kind of hormonal surge, because I was getting sort of the cold, shaky sweats at night, overnight, which is something that I think I've mentioned before. It would happen every few weeks or so, but it stopped in the second trimester. That was not happening anymore. But something definitely kicked into gear at that point. So between stress and whatever was going on physically, I had a rough time in week 29 with rage issues. And I wasn't connecting it directly. It was always something not directly associated with something that was stressing me out. For example, if I dropped something on the floor, now it is getting a little bit more difficult to bend over and to pick things up or to get things off of a bottom shelf at the grocery store, which incidentally feels like everything I need lately these days is always on the bottom shelf. It's so weird. But I don't want to complain about it. I don't, it's just part of how things are. And I love the fact that this is what my life is right now. So the fact that I could drop a pen on the floor and feel like I needed to burn something because I was so angry, like I gotta set something on fire, I gotta break a plate. Like I was getting like a destructive anger over something so little. Mostly if I just dropped something, I was very dropsy, but just things that I couldn't control. If I screwed something up, and I can't even think of an example, I should have written something down, but it was always something so minor, something that happens on an everyday basis that should never ever make you that angry. And I would just feel this rage just burn through me. And I'd have to kind of remind myself like, whoa, there is no need to freak out the way you are. And I would never yell or let this out. I would never, if anybody was ever around me when any of this happened, they wouldn't have known I was angry. It was just this intense, frightening, like there was a Disney villain sitting on one of my shoulders. And I tried to sort of pinpoint what are things that I can control, what are things that are just happening and there's nothing I can do about it. I have to kind of channel my frustrations and my anger. And I'm definitely still the kind of person, and I always will be to some degree, I know, that says yes way more than I should. I say yes when my deep down instinct is, oh, no, 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 no. And I let myself get too much on my plate. So I have to work on that, and that's something that I feel like once I have a family, that will be my priority. So why don't I start treating my life that way now? My health and my well-being, mental as well as physical, matters just as much now as it will in a few months from now. So it's kind of a good preview for me of, what I should or shouldn't try and force myself to accomplish in a certain time frame. So basically, I got through everything that I needed to do. And again, I don't want to make it sound like any of those things were bad things. It was birthday celebrations. It was like, it wasn't stuff that should make me feel stressed or upset. but it just felt like a lot of like, I got to get through today, I got to get through tomorrow. And of course I love having an appointment with my OB. I love seeing her, and it's just one more chance to hear that everything is okay. And I don't know, I was feeling stressed, but it wasn't about bad things. The financial stuff I'll deal with. That's just life right now. That's just what's going on. And Mike and I were even talking about it, and I said, listen, you know as well as I do that if a couple of years ago someone had said, hey, we can make all your dreams come true and you can have a family, but you'll have money will be a little bit tighter than what you're used to. You'll have a few tough months. What would we have taken? I mean, there's no reason to even worry that bad. It's not that bad. Everything's gonna be fine. So I can tell that I'm very reasonable in that sense. I'm very logical, and I can talk myself out of feeling stressed about things that I probably should feel stressed about. So that's how I know there was like something going on hormonally there. It almost felt like, do you know what it reminded me of? Was Clomid. I was a monster on Clomid, and anyone who's ever taken it, I know you know what I'm talking about. I've told this story a million times, but the first time I was on Clomid, by like the third or fourth day, Mike said, what do you want for dinner? And I was like, I don't know, what do you want? And he kind of tossed it back to me again, and I got so mad. The fight escalated to me threatening to leave him. For real, that happened. I'm so ashamed of it, but that was the kind of Clomid rage that I was going through. I felt like I had it again. It's been a while since we had a normal invasion. Hi, Normal. Hi, kitty. It's because she knows I have a shirt on that I don't want to get cat hair all over. They just sense that, don't they? They just know. Anyway, after we had gotten through a good amount of those obligations we had on the calendar, and I was things were winding down, one day I just had a good cry. I just let it out. And Mike gave me a back rub. I basically cried myself to sleep. And a lot of it was just feeling relieved. It was feeling like it's almost over. I feel good now. And just having his support, and just knowing that all of the stress is, most of it's for a really good reason. We have a lot going on. We have a lot we have a big to-do list still, and this to-do list is for the best reason ever. It just feels like I can direct the flow. And I know I'm gonna get all these thumbs down. People are gonna hate that I'm saying that this happened at all, but I'm telling you genuinely, it was like I wasn't me. It was like I was possessed somehow by this other feeling, and I know that was hormonal. It had to have been. So then I'm just, you know me, I like to always keep it real. So if I was having hemorrhoids instead, I would have told you about that, but this was what was going on. So I had a good cry. Mike rubbed my back. I fell asleep, and then the next day was a Sunday where he has the day off, and we put in probably 3 or 4 hours of work into the nursery. It's closer to being done now than not. So I really only have to organize some clothing, and I guess I want to wait until after my showers. I have 2 showers left. I want to wait until after my showers to make a video of the nursery, because I'm sure there will be things that we receive that I want to add to it, to what will be like the official video, to kind of memorialize. That makes it sound bad. But like the video that I'll be able to look back on, like this is where the nursery started, before we brought her home, and then maybe even what it evolves into in the future when she gets like a big girl bed. I can't even talk about that kind of stuff yet. But, so I'm not ready to make that video yet. It's not done, but it's very, very close. And that day felt so good. It was like exactly what I needed. It centered me again. It made me feel like I could do something where I could see actual results and feel like it was for my little girl and nobody else. Like it wasn't even for me. It was just for her to get her room ready, and it felt so good. It was so like renewing and refreshing. We just put some music on and set some things up and assembled some things and took some junk out of there that we didn't need in there anymore, and it felt great. Mike is so amazing. It was like he knew that was exactly what I needed, and he suggested let's do that this afternoon, and I just felt it. It was like it just all washed away. It was wonderful. Even just being in that room it takes me to a whole different place. It's like I can't feel pain or stress or anything but love and excitement and just unbelievable gratitude when I'm in that room. Okay. I didn't think I was going to do this week. I really didn't think. So let's talk about glucose tests, which if you follow my Snapchat or Instagram, you probably saw that I said I had to take the 3-hour glucose test. So just to get us all on the same page, I took one at 26 weeks, which according to my doctor and what her practices are, I know it varies everywhere, is a little bit early. She normally tests people at 28 weeks or later, but because I have a lot of risk factors for gestational diabetes, I'm, close to advanced maternal age. I'm 34. I am obese. I have PCOS. I'm insulin resistant, I should say. I'm technically probably pre-diabetic by most doctors' standards, which changed through my diet, the diet that helped get me pregnant, but I still think that I was closer to being pre-diabetic than not. So if there's 5 risk factors for gestational diabetes, I have 7, okay? So that's just, I was kind of expecting the worst when it comes to that. But I was pleasantly surprised that I passed my first one, even though I just squeaked by, because my result at 26 weeks was a 134 out of a possible 135. So 135 was the max. But they considered that passing. If you Google it, a lot of doctors' offices consider 140 the max. So I don't know. I don't know if my doctor's office is just extra cautious or if that's how this particular lab works. I don't know. So I went back at 28 weeks for what is considered the normal time to take a glucose test with my doctor's office. Again, that varies. And she said, you only have to do one more. It's another 1 hour. So they gave me another orange drink and she said, do it at your convenience. And if you know my history with food and trying to lose weight and trying to improve my fertility, you know that I, for years, didn't understand my body and why I couldn't lose weight with, standard dieting or even cutting out what was considered to be major food allergens and things that could cause inflammation before I found keto. Because my body would always do these weird things that I couldn't make sense of. And this is a perfect example of that. So I told you guys in like my week 26 or 27 video that I had a piece of wheat toast, whole wheat toast with peanut butter on it the morning of my first gestational diabetes test, my first glucose test. And then after I took it, I read that that was wrong, that I shouldn't have done that. Now, my doctor's office said no sugary breakfast. They said no sugary cereal or donuts or nothing like that. They weren't specific enough. I've read that all different doctors say different things. Some of them tell you to fast. Some of them say egg whites only. Some of them say only protein. So, it varies from one doctor to the next and probably one patient to the next. But I could tell that the spiel I was getting was a very typical thing that they say. It wasn't tailored to me specifically. It was just, hey, no sugary breakfast, but otherwise whatever you want. And then after, only drink water. And I would do it first thing in the morning. So I had the wheat toast and I got a 134 out of 135. The second time, I'm feeling really stressed out, really, really nervous that this is gonna be it. This is when they tell me I have gestational diabetes, which I was fine with and I would deal with. But I've been feeling really proud of my body and really good about the fact that I'm even here in the first place. So I guess I just was like, please, please, please. Most of my pregnancy, I have not wanted anything to do with just plain protein. Eggs, it's out of the question for the most part. I've been able to eat a few hard-boiled eggs here and there, but first thing in the morning, that sounded awful. Meat of any kind, like bacon, I want nothing to do with. I couldn't think of something that was simple and quick that I could just eat in the morning that was a good, just basic protein source. Because they didn't tell me to do only protein, but I was just leaning towards being on the safe side. I've also heard, I read a lot on Dr. Google, that it's bad to fast beforehand because of the way your body will react, especially if you have a history of insulin resistance. So because otherwise I would have just done that, honestly. So I took 2 pieces of mozzarella cheese and I microwaved them in a bowl and I ate them with a fork. I know that might sound really weird to some people, but that's something I've been doing since I was a kid. And it certainly was a keto-friendly snack because I didn't want to just eat cold cheese. So I just melt some mozzarella in a bowl, eat it with a fork, delicious, done. I had something to eat, there's something in my system. So I did that. I did the quote-unquote right thing, and I failed. I failed a lot. I failed hard. So the test range is from 63 to 135, and I had passed previously with a 134, eating bread, which is not ideal. This time, I just had 2 little pieces of cheese, and the night before, I had fish sticks, like I was like a 6-year-old. I ate fish sticks for dinner and nothing else, and I had plenty of water. I don't know, I didn't even eat that badly the entire week leading up, but I failed. I got a 159. And I know that that's just what my body did. There wasn't anything I really could have done, and I didn't want to throw the test, if that makes sense, because that could really be harmful to the baby. I wasn't trying to fool the system in any way. I was just trying to give myself a chance to get a decent number. As decent as what I could produce, and as real as what it could be, if that makes sense. And I got a 159. And then I scheduled my 3-hour. So in case you're not familiar, I had to fast for 12 hours. At the 12-hour fasting mark, I had to have my blood drawn at the lab as a baseline. And then I would drink the glucose drink. And then every 3 hours after that, I would have my blood drawn again. And those would be my remaining test results. A few people said to me, like even the nurse, when she called me to set up the appointment, the nurse even said, make sure, we really recommend you get something to eat immediately after, because you probably won't feel very well. And I felt like saying, do people not do that? Because I would think that'd be my first priority. And a few people, like just here and there, made comments to me, Snapchat or whatever, like make sure you have something to eat afterwards. And I wasn't rude about it, but part of me wanted to be like, why wouldn't I? I'll tell you why. Because I genuinely didn't feel like I needed to afterwards. I know I sat there the whole time after 15 hours of fasting and sat there for that whole test thinking about food. And then when I could eat, I was like, I'm good. I don't really feel like I need to. And that is why people say that, because a lot of people ended up thinking that they could go on with their day without eating right away and they would get really sick or feel really dizzy. But strangely enough, I felt okay with the 1-hour glucose test. I'd come home and crash. With the 3-hour, I don't know, maybe it's because I was just sort of sitting around and not doing anything. I don't know if my body processed it all differently, but I felt okay. I made sure to have a pretty clear schedule for the rest of the day. I did have to work a little bit, but otherwise I made sure not to burden myself with any other obligations in case I felt really awful. And I felt okay. I received the results of that test and I passed. I passed the 3-hour test. I don't know how. They didn't give me the ranges, but I did look it up online. My results were, my baseline was 96, and I guess typically you're supposed to get under 95, but it must have been higher than that for my lab. The first draw, you have to be under 180 usually. Again, this all varies, and I don't know what they were going off of, but just so that you have a frame of reference. You usually had to be under 180 after the first hour, and mine was 134. Then at the 2-hour mark, you have to be under 155, and I was 160. So that one I was over, if that was the range that they were, I don't know, again, what the range was. And then hour 3, you have to be under 140 usually, and I was at 86. But that's it. I feel really good. I'm just really happy. And as I told you guys, I forgot to take a picture. In all the craziness, I forgot to take a picture. So I will just show you my belly. Sorry about the cat hair. And today is Halloween. It is the 31st. And it's the last day of week 31 for me today. So I'm dressed for Halloween. Don't mind my navy yoga pants. I'm going to change those before I leave the house tonight. So here is my belly today, which I know doesn't really count as a week 29, but better than nothing. Getting packages in for our online YouTube shower, and we're putting them in the nursery. I look at that stack of presents. I really try not to actually see what's in the boxes when I open them, but Amazon has completely given up on marking them as gifts. I've only had one or two come through marked that way, so I'll see something for a split second and I'll close it right back up. I usually end up crying a little bit. I don't know who any of these gifts are from yet, but if you've sent something already, thank you so much, and I really look forward to unboxing all of that and having our shower in a few days. It's going to be a few days away at this point, so I am going to film that on the 10th, and I will post it on the 11th. So I have that to look forward to, and then we have another shower shortly after that, and things are starting to get real. I'm making lists and trying to check things off. There is a question that I'd love to ask you guys. So technically I'm almost 32 weeks. I know there's a lot of things that like the baby books and the apps and the whole world tell you to do after a certain point. For example, packing a hospital bag. They always say week 34 for some reason at that point. Like, oh, week 34 is when you pack a hospital bag. I don't know why, but I always see week 34 through 37 is when you pack a hospital bag. So is there anything that when you were around this point, that you waited on that you wish you hadn't? Or was there anything that you wish you had done sooner when you were getting towards this point in your pregnancy? You or maybe someone you know. I would love to hear it, because there is some stuff that I keep feeling like, well, I guess it's too early to do that. But I don't know. I don't want to feel like I have a whole lot of loose ends to tie up in case anything goes down early, or in case things start to get really crazy, because it's the holiday season in a few weeks, you know? So I would love advice on that. I know it'll be after the fact, but I hope you guys had a really happy Halloween, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.